Hi, this is Joe Murray, News for Scotland, and we're at that time of the year where we all like to get our bird feeders out and make sure our little feathered friends in our gardens and beyond are fed and kept warm for the winter. But what I would like to talk to you about today is some of the things not to feed them. Because inadvertently some of the stuff in our kitchen, the scraps of food that we sometimes put on our bird tables, can actually do more harm than good. So I'd like to talk to you today about some of the things that you shouldn't feed them, because I know none of us want to actually hurt these little creatures. So I'll start with potato crisps and other types of crisps like that. Snacks. Although potato chips are not prized for their nutritional value and are considered junk food to us, they can in theory be safe for birds, but all that salt and saturated fat is not doing them any favours. Feeding them a steady diet of potato crisps could eventually result in obesity and kidney problems, like humans. They could also become addicted to junk food, like humans, at the expense of finding more nutritional feed. Additionally, the additives and preservatives found in many potato crisps could be poisonous to some birds. So if you can, don't feed them crisps or those kind of snacks. I know some birds will come and eat them anyway, but on the whole, it's better not to feed them. They'll go look for something more nutritional if you don't give them those. Nuts. Now, nuts are great for birds. The fat in these high-calorie snacks are healthy and keep them flying, chirping from dawn until dusk. Nuts can also help keep their plumage in tip-top condition. Almonds, Brazil nuts, pecans, peanuts, walnuts and macadamia nuts can all be a quality source of food for a huge variety of birds. However, I'd like you to be aware that anything with salt or dry roasted written on the packet is an absolute no-go. Peanuts, either straight from the shell or crushed, have been a popular choice of food to put in bird feeders for years. But don't make the mistake of thinking you can just pour the leftovers from your packet of dry roasted straight into the feeder. You can't, it'll do a lot of damage to the birds. Birds are not built to digest that much salt, and it could make them extremely sick, and in some cases it could actually kill them. It's also important never to put whole, unsalted peanuts out during the breeding season. Remember that when they're actually nesting and breeding, because if the birds feed them to their chicks, they run the risk of accidentally choking their chicks. So it's better to keep the peanuts for the winter time, or later on when the birds have fledged. Chocolate, yeah, that's a thing, isn't it? Like dogs, birds are unable to stomach chocolate because of the theobromine content, and it's pure poison to their palates. This is derived from the cocoa plant, and the theobromine in chocolate is an alkaloid from the same family as caffeine, which is also toxic to birds. Dark chocolate, of course, is particularly dangerous for them, and their extremely fast metabolism means the effects of theobromine will be fast-acting, and this can create symptoms including vomiting fits and heart attacks. So don't put chocolate on your feeder. I know you think there's fats and that in it, but it'll not do them any good. It'll do them more harm than good. Okay? Garlic. You know, garlic has got lots of health benefits for us, and it can help boost our immune systems, reduce blood pressure, lower cholesterol, whatever. But it's not great for birds. Garlic contains a chemical called allicin that can play havoc with the bird system, cause lethargy, anemia, vomiting and diarrhoea. These are not good for anybody, especially small birds. And like garlic, onion, great for us, liven up dull dishes, but they should also be strictly off the menu for birds because onions have a high sulphur content, which can aggravate a bird's digestive system and damage the insides of their mouths and stomachs. So we don't want to be giving them garlic or onion. Give that to me, I'll have that anytime. Honey, yeah, because of its sweetness and high energy properties, birds will naturally be drawn to honey. But just like humans, they don't always appreciate that something that tastes so good can be quite bad for them. It can also be quite acidic and interfere with the bird's digestion process. Honey is also lacking in the high levels of specific nutrients that birds require, and its high sugar content can be quite harmful to their health. The microorganisms found within honey can also cause botulism in birds. Pasteurised honey doesn't contain the same microorganisms, but because it's been heated and treated, it lacks even the limited nutritional value wild honey provides. So take honey off the menu for your bird table. If you feel the birds need a little sugar in their diet, dried berries or fruit are by far the safer options. Beans and pulses, although most are perfectly safe to feed our feathered friends, if they are uncooked, undercooked or dry, you run the risk of ruining their health. So make sure you steam or boil those beans before letting the birds stick their beaks in. Frying them is not the best idea for obvious reasons. When beans remain uncooked, particularly red kidney beans, they still contain high traces of a substance that is toxic to birds called hemagglutinin. Cooking the beans removes this substance common to many plants. Green beans, black beans, lentils, chickpeas and peas are the safest for birds. Although the birds can eat some undercooked beans, it's best not to take any chances. Remember not to feed the birds any beans you have cooked with salt, oil or added any seasoning to, because the salt, the oil and seasonings can be really bad for them. This sounds like you shouldn't feed birds at all, but it's just keep these things in mind, because it's wonderful to feed birds and have them come to your garden. But please don't let this put you off. There's just a lot of things that a lot of people don't put in their tables anyway, but sometimes people do. So I'm just trying to bring it to your mind that there's things you can avoid. If you really want to, just buy bags of good bird feed, and they're not that expensive. That's probably the best thing to give them anyway, but we can give them things from our cupboard if we've run out and it's too cold or it's too snowy or too icy to get to the shop. But just remember what I'm telling you. Dairy products. Well, it might be tempting to place that little bit of leftover milk in a saucer for them, or that little chunk of cheese, put that out for the birds on a bitterly cold morning. Your good intentions could, of course, have quite dire consequences. As a rule, most birds are lactose intolerant and cannot enjoy the creamy things in life without risk. Full-fat milk and soft cheese are especially harsh on them. Some birds can eat a little bit of this stuff when other food is hard to find, but in general, it's harsh in their system, and baby birds in particular should not be exposed to dairy products, so remember that in springtime. Although birds are big fans of worms, it's also not wise to put any sort of leftover raw meat in your feeders. They can begin to rot very quickly and cultivate some very harmful strains of bacteria, as you would imagine, of course. If you wish to give birds a protein kick, suet is a better choice to keep them energised and healthy. And lastly, everybody's favourite bird food, bread. Although bread doesn't poison birds, its real danger is that it doesn't really offer them any great nutritional value. And it's especially a problem in winter. The super fast metabolism of birds and their tiny stomachs require them to eat until they're completely full at every meal. Bread has a habit of quickly making them feel they couldn't take another bite and leave their feeder feeling satisfied and well fed, yet bread does not contain the magic combination of carbs, fats and proteins that they need to lead their high energy lifestyles. With a stomach full of empty, which is really what we're giving them, they're missing out on the real nourishment and calories that they need to keep warm, to fly and stay alive for the duration. On really cold days, when nutrition is difficult for birds to find, they get so little energy from eating only bread that they cannot keep warm, and that can actually kill them. So bread doesn't poison them, but it doesn't really feed them either, and in cold days it can be really difficult. Listen, there was nothing else. It's better than nothing. But to be honest, if you want to feed birds, I would say go and buy some suet balls, buy a bag of mixed seeds for birds and put them in your feeders. And another thing, keep your feeders clean. I can be a wee bit guilty of this myself by neglecting them, but keep your feeders clean. Clean them regularly, because wee birds can pick up diseases from these. If everybody eats from the same plate, it's the same idea. But little birds like greenfinches in particular are suffering through catching diseases from not quite so hygienic bird feeders. So keep your bird feeders clean as well. But I would suggest, if you're stuck, you don't have anything to feed them and you've got stuff in your cupboard or on that are scraps, feed them those, but make sure you're not giving them any of the stuff I've just mentioned here, just because it's there, because you can cause more damage than good, and that is nobody's intention when you're feeding birds. So if you can, buy a big bag of seed or a few fat balls and feed them to your birds. All of the birds. You should feed even the big ones. I'm not a great fan of magpies, but I won't let them starve either. So anyway, this is Joe Murray from News for Scotland, signing off. Thanks for listening.